Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tracy Cook, and I'm the Online Media Manager for ModernAnalyst.com, the premier community for business analysts. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Elements of Business Modeling. Today's featured speaker is Ramzi Millar, Business Architect. Today's webinar will last approximately 60 minutes, including the question and answer session at the end. Please be sure to submit your questions in advance using the questions feature on the GoToWebinar software. I'd like to say thank you to ASPE Training for sponsoring today's event. Please note there are handouts that you can download from the GoToWebinar control panel. And now I'd like to introduce Tracy Taylor from ASPE Training to get us started.
Thanks, Tracy. So as Tracy said, I am with ASPE Training, and ASPE provides innovative custom solutions to help transform your enterprise and increase success within your organization. We are the nation's leading IT and professional development company, and we specialize in tailored solutions for all levels of the enterprise. That means from collegiate or entry-level new hire programs to engineers and testers, all the way up to executive leadership. To ensure that you receive the most effective transformation, we follow what we call our ACT model, which stands for Assess, Coach, and Train. Our assessments identify skills gaps within your organization to help us design a custom solution for you. When we need to help reinforce those learned skills, our expert coaches are there to help your teams so that those new skills become instinctive and reusable. Along with assessments and coaching, our training courses include hands-on interactive exercises and labs with real-world scenarios to guarantee your skills can be implemented immediately. We have worked with numerous organizations, including all of the Fortune 100 companies, and would love to partner with your organization. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about us, you can visit aspetraining.com/about-us, that's one word, or by downloading the capabilities guide from the handouts that Tracy just mentioned. So that's it for my spiel. I will go ahead and hand things over to our presenter, Ramzi Millar.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and I'll give you my background here, but simply to say that I've had a long journey as a business analyst, business architect, and I just wanted to share with you folks tricks I've learned and smart people I've learned from, and some high-level information. The subject matter is 45 minutes of time, but it's very deep, and it's an emerging area. A strategic BA is a business architect. So here's my background. I'll leave that for now. What are the elements of business modeling? And as you learn more about something, you begin to realize it has really specific, detailed elements that if you focus on, they're really going to make you're going to be very successful. But when you're first coming at it, you think, well, what's so important about these things? So I want to point out some flags that if you hang on to them, your career as a business architect is already going well, or if you're planning to become a business architect, it will do very well. So what the heck does Charles Darwin have to do with business models? Well, I kind of see business models everywhere, right from the caveman through to the Industrial Revolution, through to the Prussian Army command control, which, by the way, most of our business model approaches, and I'm talking about business models, not business modeling. Of course, business modeling supports business models. Survival models are what business is all about. You need to survive. In warfare, you need to survive. In business, you need to survive. And we're really leaving the pre-industrial age, or we think we are, and we're getting into what we call we have the pre-industrial age, now we have the industrial age. We're having a hard time being born into the knowledge era, which I'm completely believing where we're going, but we've only been at that journey for something like only 49 years of where humans have been coming together in a very massive way to share knowledge using high-speed communications and other devices. So it's neither the strongest or the most intelligent that survive. It isn't survival of the fittest. He didn't say that. He said those people who are able to adapt to change will succeed. The ones that are ahead of the curve, which I'll talk about, the business models they've created, are already reaping billions and billions of dollars of revenue. And I want to share with you how to help you leverage those companies that get it. And I guess in my 35 years of business modeling, I only think 10% are really getting it, and everybody else is kind of behind the curve. So one of the key points that changed our industry massively was we are a software company disguised as a bank. And I've worked with the banks in New York in the early 2000s when they finally got it. And every organization today is a software company, and the role of the business analyst has never been more important, and the business architect. All stakeholders are demanding better software, delivered faster, with low tolerance, and also no security breaches. So while I'm on that point, it used to be years ago there was a CEO, and then the CEO had to be number one, and over time the chief financial officer would never be considered for CEO. But there came a change in business history some years ago, 10, 15 years ago or more, where all at once CFOs started becoming CEOs. Okay, so that changed. We started thinking about CIOs, and they'll never be CEOs. But guess what happens? They get fired every 2 years. It's a very tough job because people don't really understand what they do. And now we are seeing CIOs becoming CEOs, to the point where I'm going to touch on a few leaders in the market that if your CEO does not understand technology, your company is gone, unless you're in a very specific niche. In order to do that, the interest in business architecture is growing, because who's going to align? One person at the top of an organization cannot create enough alignment. Who's going to be the transmission between the leadership and the delivery? And people are a delivery mechanism, and machines are a delivery mechanism. So we have two delivery mechanisms. Hopefully they work together. Many people miss the people side of the equation, and that's really important for business architects to see how the people fit with the machine, not just the machine running the people. So I only have statistics going back to 2011. There's a 60% in 2011, we're seeing architecture is growing and very important. So what is a business architect? In my simple definition, a business architect provides leadership with strategic alignment of outcomes by defining the 6 interrogatives. We'll talk more about that. We need to improve governance, and we need to transmit from leadership all the way through to machines and people. We need to create that alignment. We need to help the communication gap. A business architect leverages their people skills and business modeling skills and ways to communicate, and roadmaps and target operating models. Business architect works to develop an integrated view. Myers-Briggs say it's about 4% of the population fall into the people that see the big picture. And that could be true. Maybe that's why we're having such a hard time getting this established. So what does the alignment mean? What do I mean by alignment? Well, I did downplay the business side, although they're number one. But the business leaders work with CEOs to develop a vision. The business architect is directly involved in the vision, planning opportunities and solutions, and developing the business architecture. The CIO is also involved in these. We get BAs involved with business architecture and managing requirements, and then we get architects, and all the way through to the IT service group and the solutions architects. If we don't have that alignment, we don't execute. And I'll touch on a bit more what execution means in the digital world, digital enterprise alignment. Most organizations are, what does an organization without a business architect? I've had this slide for centuries. I used to think I was above it, but I actually did this once. I really looked back and got humble and said, you know what? I did that once. I worked for a personnel group, and what's so hard about personnel? I've been doing engineering and I've been doing finance. And I thought, so right now we do have a huge, the most popular methodology today is code and fix. And that's what I see Agile as. 68% of CEOs agree that Agile teams require more architects, from defining strategy to championing requirements, ensuring development teams stick to the rules of the game. A study out of Europe last year at the CIO conference, we're not no matter what we do, whatever silver bullet in our industry we've thrown at the problem of fixing the business alignment, it has failed. Statistics on Agile has not moved the bar one step towards productivity, one step toward another. Neither did Waterfall, neither did RUP. We have 60 different bullets we've been firing. We need to get down and do the work, and we need to align an organization. We need to build better solutions. The first time humanity actually involved itself in putting software into machinery was in the Vietnam War. And it was declassified years later how many lives were lost and how much treasure. And the formation of that, in 1997, when the Senate was working, they passed a rule that, an act, that we had to start building software for military operations. And CMMI from Carnegie Mellon won that. Today, this day, if I'm building software solutions for large-scale military warfare, which requires extreme complexity, and it has to work or else we're gone, our country's gone. That's a highly critical, mission-critical area to be in, and we need to make that work, and we have made it work. You have to be level 4 CMMI compliant. We still have problems, but boy, we've gotten a lot better. The banking industry, when I worked in a lot in the early days in New York after the crisis of 9/11, had to rebuild many of their systems. And I worked for an organization, can't say who, that was fined $6 million. And the CIO brought me in and said, build this course. We need to teach our people what it means by, achieving process KPIs. And I wasn't supposed to give them the answer. I was supposed to run workshops. And when I ran the workshops for like 60 people, waves of groups of people, the light went on and all they missed was one KPI. That organization was fined $6 million because of one missing business architecture KPI. Worked with cruise ships, no integrated tools. They went agile. They went 14 tools to deliver $1.2 billion software project. Boy, are we ever brave. The telecom industry I worked for were fined $47 million. The CEO took the money out of the IT budget and basically funded a project that I was touchly involved in. They actually did not believe in requirements, and so they threw away their Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. And if people in the United States know what that is, you can't record personal information in computer systems. This organization actually recorded it in 6 different systems. So, they're throwing out the whole idea of aligning the business people to the software industry. United Kingdom, recent reports, 48 billion wasted on failed Agile IT projects last year. Agile is good, it does work, but right now it's becoming a social craze with no metrics, and we have no control as an architect or business analyst. Elements, so there's a problem to fix, but it'll keep happening. There'll be another craze shortly. Elements of business, a good book to read about building business solutions. It focuses on the business, not on the technology. What is the business reason you're doing it? Why are you building this system anyway? Should you build it? A good BA should say, don't build it. Elements of business modeling. What are the elements? What does success look like? So I'm making all these claims. So I need to actually support my claims by giving you some background on the real companies that you never hear about hardly, that are really doing it right, and the people behind it. So what does success look like? Despite these problems, there's a number of organizations racking up billions, like Microsoft and Amazon. I mean, the list goes on. Google and all the new industries that are going into knowledge, the new knowledge era, the knowledge age. So effective enterprise business architecture is critical to organizational survival. Who is going to align a rapidly evolving market, a rapidly evolving technology with no alignment? It's like every man for themselves. Sharing the business model with all stakeholders is indispensable. We still have humans. We still need to communicate with humans. And if we don't all line up the ducks and know where we're going, we're all going to go in our own direction. We need to generate lots of business value, and we can do it. We can do it in 4 ways. To boil up enterprise architecture, business architecture, we're looking at only 4 areas. that organizations need to align strategy through. And for the machine side of the world, like business IT and architecture, those are the same principles. If you want a machine to do things for you, you have to follow these same approaches. Customer value analysis. Who are you serving? Are they getting value from us? Number one. Number two, core competencies. Do we have skilled talent? Do we have the brains to do it? Or can we build our people? Or do we buy them? There was a period of time in America where we're outsourcing all the jobs. And that, luckily, that trend is changing because if you're running Amazon, how tight are you keeping your secrets? And that's very important to keep your brains in one area. Process management. How well do you do process management? Is a key driver, and operational excellence. We all have to, if we're going to spend time going to work, why don't we just get excellent? We're not going to be excellent, but you know what? Aiming high means we're going to get up higher. So the first one, operational excellence, an excellent example, a great book if you're a business architect or if you're a CEO. And if you're a business architect, you better be in the boardroom. You better understand the motivation in the boardroom. And this book gives you an insight on how Jack Welch, CEO, left GE, the world's most valuable company, due to these reasons, these simple, clear reasons. And he hired the best experts in the world, Bossidy and Ramcharan, and a bunch of other people to pull it off. If you go to their offices in GE, where I've been privileged to be, you'll see they have massive rooms. For one executive, they're paneled. They have all the samurai warfare on the walls. They follow all of the principles of excellence and process. And The Art of War is a mandatory book, I bet. And from 1981 to 2001, he grew the value of that corporation by 4,000% by mentoring the manufacturing quality movement. He took from Toyota what Deming did in Toyota and applied it to a large scale, a massively large scale U.S. corporation at the time. Now he's turned it, this was the birth of global business, was with Jack Welch. He also said he turned engineers, can you believe it, into service-centered business by embracing change and creating a boundaryless organization. He said embracing change, not resisting change. A boundaryless organization with a focus on global communications, and that's how he succeeded. The book is a great read. Deming, Edwards Deming. Everybody thinks Japan started the quality movement. It's not true. The quality award in Japan is given to Deming. It's called the Deming Award. If you cannot describe what you do as a process, you don't know what you're doing. In fact, many people believe he was the beginning of Agile, the real Agile, the good Agile, because I see Agile as good, bad, and ugly. And right now we're having a lot of problem with the ugly part. Customer value analysis. The key person, the most interesting person in this area is Alibaba, Jack Ma. When asked in an interview, what are your most important priorities in what order, when he was first listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange, a company much larger than Amazon. China's on the ascendancy, and China's going to rule because they have so many people and they attract lots of brain power. My top three priorities are my workers first, my customers second, and my shareholders third. Isn't that interesting? Here is a person from a communist country telling American corporations how to run. Treat your people number one. In the knowledge industry, if you do not treat your people well, they're going to leave somewhere else. You know, the old idea like the whippings will continue until morale improves, that is an industrial age thought. The knowledge age thought is you need to take care of your people. If you want to grow people and grow brains and mentor, look at Google and many of the other West Coast companies. The core Amazon now apparently overtook Bill Gates as the most wealthiest man in the world. I think all of us love to buy on Amazon. It's a great experience, including me. I love it. If you read their business model day to day, study their business model every day. Just watch what they're doing, different things from day to day. Pretty soon they'll be Uber. I mean, if they're going to move packages around, why not move people around? It's just a fait accompli eventually. Does your CEO do this? Does your CEO enough about programming to say, if you don't use open API interfaces and web services, you'll be fired? And part of the reason that they're so good is that this CEO knows technology and business, and I'm very happy to say I report to those men, much younger than me, who've done business and technology both. They have insight into both sides, and those are the clear winners in the future as we all become digital, a digital enterprise. We need to rethink the role of people, information, technologies in a digital world. The digital enterprise is a new way of interacting with customers. It was first published by a Canadian named Don Tapscott, who kind of opened people up to think, hey, maybe you could trust the internet. Maybe we could make money on it. And since then, the book has rung true. He was a real futurist. Today, how many years later, has anybody seen business models evolve rapidly? Yes. Look at the growth of Uber, Airbnb, the drive towards mobile, which hasn't even ended yet. The introduction of cloud, which is going to be the next major revolution that will be the most massive disruptor coming on, and we better start playing with that pretty fast, understanding the implications on business. These sound like technologies, but the technologies all leverage the business. Social media, look at the impact social media has had in the world in the last few years. Big data and analytics, business intelligence, semantic technologies, and rapid innovation. If you think it's going to get simpler, it's not. It's just going to get more complicated. But guess what? There's ways of solving that problem as a business architect, because every problem has a solution. The solution is a digital enterprise value chain. We have to start looking at, just like we looked at value chain for manufacturing vehicles where it started. When you started with Henry Ford in the beginning, he had one production line. It was a straight line. And today, if you look at the average assembly line, it's like looking at a railway yard where there's branches going out, branches coming in, and just-in-time assemblies. So we need to start applying the Industrial Revolution value chain thinking to digital value outcomes. And I've been fortunate enough to work for a couple companies that have done that, are doing that actually in the software retail industry. Again, we need to focus on customer value analysis, attract the brightest and the smartest, be process-centric, and have operational excellence, aim high. So with all this change coming up, we need to build for change. And I watched these three gurus that they call their sort of monikers, the three amigos of business architecture. So anybody interested in on the webinar in finding out more, you need to go to the Business Agility Manifesto, which is not about writing code faster. Writing code faster doesn't fix your company. Thinking smarter, and I'm going to touch on a few concepts shortly on how I got direct examples of how business rules have impacted a corporation, how breaking the complexity of an organization by enterprise architecture, or Mr. Process Management, Roger Burton, focuses on the process side. They all need to work together in a harmony. You may wish to download their Business Agility Manifesto, which is absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. Leveraging knowledge framework. So a couple things to help you with. The interrogatives and leveraging knowledge frameworks. Business models are very, very complex. I know I'm simplifying it for you because I've been doing it so many years and it's easy. I walk in and just breathe it. But they're very complex. So you need a tool, and the best tool I've ever discussed is the questions that you ask, and there's 6 of them. They're called the 6 interrogatives. So we need to approach every business model using this filter. They're all important, but every organization has a different weighting. For example, FedEx business model would be who, when, and where. Another organization would be another set that are more important than others. If they don't deliver the package for the right who, to the right where, at the right when, that's their metric of how they operate. And we could give different examples. So 6 interrogatives were invented by John Zachman, or discovered, or uncovered, or rediscovered. They may have been around 6,000 years ago at the University of Benares, and the Greek philosophers and metaphysicists. They are the most important ways of learning, is the why, the who, the how, when, where, what. And business models, again, are complex. We use tools. We're organized into departments. We use sequential processes. We report to somebody. We live in silos. Very few people can think, walk and chew gum at the same time, where you're in a vertical silo, but you're also serving a horizontal. The CEO sees the horizontal. He likes the silos, but he's always saying, why are you guys fighting all the time? Why don't you guys stop fighting? Why don't you work together? We're one group. So the CEO view of the world is a actual horizontal view. But the horizontal doesn't work if the verticals don't work, and the weakest link in the vertical gives you the problems. And for the last 50, 60 years or whatever, I hate to say, I've been in the IT industry where I've always been doing alignment from day one, and my leadership has always been happy about it. But all I've been hearing about how everybody's having such dysfunction with IT and business. That's because IT is totally out of control and they do whatever they want because there's no governance, there's no alignment. So leveraging knowledge frameworks. They're necessary to share knowledge. Now, you may have not heard of a framework. When you went to school in grade 1, you learned the alphabet. The alphabet is 26 letters in English, at least, and you can pretty well create anything you want out of those 26 letters. And then when you get into rules of handling those letters. And we have geography, maps. How do you draw a map? Everybody says, oh, we don't like modeling. We don't like doing that. But did you ever get lost and use a map? Do you like the GPS map you've got? That is a framework. It has only 2 dimensions, of course. In some sophisticated systems, you have 3 dimensions. The periodic table for chemistry, when it was invented, opened up the entire world of chemistry for the world. It's a reference model. Gray's Anatomy is a reference model for the human body. So we abound with frameworks, and I want to share with you business modeling frameworks. We have many of them. You just have to look, and I'll mention where they are shortly. Healthcare, banking insurance, very rapid growth of business model frameworks. And of course, for us people in behind the scenes, the business architects and business analysts, we have the Business Architecture Book of Knowledge, which is one of the best. We have the Business Analysis Book of Knowledge, which is excellent. We have the International Requirements Engineering Board. We have the Object Management Group, which is a leader in committee and rules and semantic business rules. I'm going to cover these shortly. And then, of course, we have the Zachman Framework, which is, in my mind, I learned about it. I loved it. It's made my life simpler. So the 2 frameworks I touched on are the highest level. I want to encourage anyone online on the webinar to join up, get part of this movement. They've been active for quite a few years now. I went to their first meeting in Reston, Virginia, many years back, and they are extremely good organization. You might want to see what they're doing, because I can't tell you all the hows and techniques, but they cover them. I'm going to touch on the high-level techniques. The TOGAF architecture, for the first time in the history of IT, we now include business models as part of IT models. What a relief. That started in 2010, so that movement's afoot. And then I want to cover the dimensions. So the dimensions are why. The first one, we have a thing called the Business Motivation Model, that BMM. Who would have thought a software organization, object management group, would become the world leaders in all standards? And that's what's happened. So many bright minds, thousands of bright minds, came up with the motivation model, which is the semantic for speaking about why. Without a common language, a business architect, without a business common language, we do not succeed in the business. We can't bring our language of IT or business. We have to use their business language. We need a common semantic, a common language. Well, you've heard the term, the ends justify the means. This comes out of military. This model comes out of planning, even in World War II planning. A lot of the stuff in business architecture has been around for 50 to 100 years. It's not new. People think business architecture is new. No, it's not. It's been around for ages. It started maturing in operational research in 1947. We had the command control structures, and if you're President Kennedy, you say, we're going to the moon. I have a vision. The desired results have goals and objectives. If you go into the average shop, they don't know if a goal serves as an objective and an objective serves a goal. This semantic solves that problem. The arguments are over. And the mission would be NASA, and NASA would launch missions. Each mission has a course of actions, a strategy, and a tactic. We have business rules coming in that are directives to make sure that the course of actions are aligned and managed by business policy. Business rules are going to govern and guide business processes, and they're involved in organization units. A great amount of knowledge being sent to you on this one, so please use this model. It's great. Also, simple documents I find work really well. A simple document like the business motivation model. I know this looks technical, but this actually gets generated, out of the analysis of your why are you doing it? What are your objectives? What are your goals? And if I can't communicate that on a transformation to hundreds of stakeholders that will be impacted, we won't get it done. We just cannot trust. Most people don't even have an alignment document when they go through a model, a business modeling transformation. So that's simple. There's way more behind it. We could do a day on the why. The what, why are you doing it? The what do you do? So let's look at the aspect of the what world, and there's many layers deep, but I'm just going to show you the highest level. The first one, I've been a follower of this gentleman, Ronald Ross, since I first met him, I guess, in '89. And he impressed me so much, I just had to pay attention more for time. Ronald Ross is the father of business rules concepts, and he has a concept called the concept model. It's a structured business vocabulary critical to build a business model. You have to have a common language. When I go to the bank or I go to anywhere to say, here's my business model, I have to understand the words to use about that business. If I go to work in the ER to find out a business model, how to help them, I need to find out what their language is. We need to work in the language. So if an organization has a common language, this focuses on it, but much more, and you can go deeper in this great book. One of the most important ones you may have heard is called a capability. We call it capability architecture or business capability architecture. It's described in very general high-level terms. It's really popular with CEOs and VPs and senior management because they can look across the entire organization and they can look down and everyone uses the same semantic, the same words. Capabilities provide semantic traceability across the architecture, and if you're orchestrating people, we're really good at doing that. Have centuries of managing people, but we don't have centuries of managing technology. And that's why we're paying the pain. It is getting better. We've gone from 73% project failure down to 50% failure. I mean, how far do you have to look to see a major transformation failure? I'm sure you all know them in any country you belong to, in every place you are. Governments tend to be more noticed because they're public. Private sectors fail just as much. The business capability drives the solution delivery, the process models, the information models, the applications, and the infrastructure models. We all need alignment. Wouldn't it be nice if CEO could just say, I'm going to change a rule next Thursday, and in 1 week, all the software would be aligned? You might think that's crazy, but that's where we are. We just haven't caught up to it. All the technologies are in place. We don't have the maturity. Some people do. Going on capability heat mapping. A capability heat map, capabilities, by the way, have been around for centuries. They used to be called functions, that whole funny word. But as we evolve business architecture, we get better at it. So now we call them capabilities, and we've added way more rigor to it, and we're really doing well with it. They provide a clear line of sight from business to technology. They're usually found in your annual report. It's a holistic design, a business design produces better lines. So you, as a business architect, you're looking horizontal and vertical. Heat mapping is brilliant. You can't assess yourself. So, it's like having the wolf in the chicken coop saying, why are the chickens dying? But we actually have assessment companies that can come in and assess your capabilities. Once you assess your capabilities, a lot of people put too much money and too much effort into the wrong things. Are we building the right solution for the business problem? And one of the, so anything in red, we need to fix. Anything in yellow is going problematic. Green is fine. Let's ignore the green ones and go after the red ones. Highly successful, highly simple approach is capability heat mapping. You will succeed every time. But there's problems there. Don't go to 7 levels of capabilities. Also, we have a capability pattern that you can look at, and it's called strategic, up, customer facing, and supporting. So process or capability, I get that question a lot. So we just covered capability. Well, Forrester did a good job, pardon me. Strategy, if you start with capabilities to define business transformation needs, to manage alignments. If you're going to process a value stream, you go down this approach. Now, only Walmart and Amazon and corporations that are really making billions do this well. Most organizations are going to start with a process and fix one process at a time. So you can do both at the same time or one or the other, but I want you to think about this map when you're thinking. It's very important. I wouldn't put it in the deck if it wasn't. How? Process architecture is getting very clear today. Everybody, those different words, I mean, people use process value chain, they use value chain, they use customer journey. Everybody wants to write a new book, invents a new term, and takes an old idea and changes it a bit. So right now, this actually comes from an operational project I worked with. It was a digital retail customer value. Can't mention the company, but they make billions selling software. They have a try, buy, use, learn, support, and renew. That is their entire value chain. In one of the value chains, buy, we have a catalog of business processes. For each business process, we have a process scope, which has been around for centuries. It just evolves its name. And for every process scope, we'll have one BP men swim lane. Who, when, and how, and KPIs. This is putting a few dimensions together. Process scope is a great way to see who is missing, what is missing. The company that was fined $6 million missed only one KPI. Can you tell me your KPIs of a specific, can you even tell me who owns the process? Can you tell me how much you spend on the process? Can you tell me the KPIs of each process? Do you have swim lanes for each process? So that's where we're going with this one. This is called process architecture. It's not process modeling. A business architect only frames it. We do not do it. We frame the architecture. The business analyst elaborates it and goes into the detail with the guidance from the boardroom through the business architecture down to the solution. Who? Well, we're all good at this. The good news is about who, it's a very simple dimension. It only has like 4 to 5 objects in it, and one of them is a stakeholder, one of them is an organization, a role, and a worker. If you tell me the who's, I can limit scope change. And also, if we miss one stakeholder, we've got a problem. So simple things, the stakeholder needs and concerns need to be transmitted to requirements later. And here's an example of a stakeholder analysis model that I use in my favorite tool. Stakeholder concerns and needs drive the requirements for change. Concerns are a great way to learn about problems. I work for so many brilliant mentors, and one of the best guys I worked for was a project manager, and he said, Ramsey, there's only 10 requirements in every system. I said, come on. I used his techniques, and I was successful because every requirement should meet one of those 10 that is in the minds of the people in the boardroom. If you can find out what those are, those 5 or 10, it'll take a long time, but if you can figure them out and you trace all your 2,000 requirements to those 10 or 5 needs and concerns, you will win every time because you can prioritize what needs to be done. Here's an example of stakeholder analysis. And as I travel through 10 corporations a year for the last 20 years, I get quite an education. And I'm sure there's a pattern. I think we could just write one, for every year, we could write one standard for what are your problems. Right now, here, let's pick any one of these. Oh yeah, this company had 20 fragmented databases. This was their language. I did not invent this language. I did add some rigor, like we have a concern or we have a need. They have a lot of people leaving at retirement age and losing all the business knowledge, so it makes the point for knowledge management. When can be picked up using business events model, and also business rules and decision tables. I worked with one company many years ago. They changed one business rule, and a month later, they were making $10 million more by one business rule change. And they went up from 10 million up to hundreds of millions in revenue by managing their rules. And business rules driven is the future of all decision modeling in business architecture. The where dimension, pretty simple, very powerful model. Geospatial consortium, you might want to look at them for frameworks. There's an entire rigorous approach nowadays to looking at geography, and geography is a very important thing. Military, the where dimension is number one. The on the ground. So wrapping the session up, I know I've covered a lot of ground here and it might be kind of light and high level, But my approach here was to kind of give you what has really worked for me when I'm in my consulting practice day in, day out, and I get buffeted, like you can imagine, just like all of us working in corporations, the kind of madness we see. We get buffeted, but these tools for me and watching these experts has really helped me get to be a place where I can always repeat my success. Knowledge management tools. Knowledge management is a buzzword again. Did you notice how all the tools change every couple of years? They change from this tool to that tool, and there's always a new buzzword, a new fishing hook. Established disciplines is 91. It's a process of creating, sharing, using, and managing the knowledge. We have so much knowledge in our organizations lost in systems. And there is a product I make fun of, and I call it Lost Point, but I don't think anyone knows what I mean when I say that. Go find it. It's in Lost Point. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how do we use that? How do we really use it? How do we boil it up into real critical strategic knowledge? Knowledge has to be well understood. Knowledge management efforts typically focus on objectives, performance, competitive advantage, innovation, and sharing of lessons learned for continual improvement. We hear, if you download I encourage you to download the Three Amigos Agility Manifesto, and one of their principles in there, they have 10 or 12 principles. One of them is single source of truth. You do need a single source of truth. You can have thousands of systems, but you do need to have a single source of truth. You should be able to collaborate with many stakeholders, store knowledge and reusable facts. You should manage business and technology complexity, trace impacts. Knowledge systems will help you look at everything, and they avoid rework and save time. So we're talking about repository. Knowledge management tools checklist. I have a favorite tool. If you want to know about it, you'll have to email me at the end. I'm not going to be an advertiser, but until I find a better tool, I'm sticking with this one. But I like tools that don't lock you in. I've used tools since 1989. I might have used like 4, 6, 7, 8 major tools. You get an opinion of them after a while. Some tools are so locked in. I know one Agile tool that's so locked in you cannot move the information anywhere. That's not very useful. Modeling business transformation and cloud migrations. As a business architect, I want to be able to see right down into the code sets. I want to see right up into the boardroom. I want to see all sides of it. Modeling text traceability across projects and enterprises. How many of you can actually see across all the projects how things are going? It also should support open standards. Very important today, REST API, that's what made Amazon the billions, is the idea of a decoupled, not tightly coupled way of having machines talk to machines. Security and change control. It has to have a robust technology for thousands and thousands of users, and a loyal user community base and low-cost point of entry. This might be true for any tool. High level, very high level. So I wanted to end the presentation, the webinar today, and thank you for attending, and I hope it helps you. My dream and wish is to give back to the industry that's been so great to me and continues to be great. And what did Henry Ford and Mahatma Gandhi have in common? Mahatma Gandhi walked around in diapers and overthrew the British Empire in India. And look what Henry Ford did. I mean, look at what he has done. And Henry Ford said the same thing as Gandhi. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are right. And if an organization or an individual thinks you can do it, you will be able to do it. If you think you're incapable of doing it, then you will not be able to do it. But the moment you think you can do it, it will start. You will acquire the capability and ability to go there. So you may think I'm a dreamer by setting up a high idea of where things are going. 10% of my clients are doing exactly what I'm sharing with you. I cannot mention who they are. But at the same time, I want to share you, they believe you can do it, and away we do it. So I wish you all the best of luck, and I really think you can do it. So I wanted to turn it over to our great sponsor, ASPE, for some comments on the presentation.
Thank you so much, Ramsey. And it was an excellent presentation. Before we move on to Q&A, and we do have plenty of time left for Q&A, I just wanted to share a few resources with today's audience. The first being two of our flagship training courses, Business Analyst Bootcamp and our CBAP Certification Prep Bootcamp. Both of these courses are offered in person in about 115 major cities across the US and Canada, as well as live online, so you can attend remotely in a live instructor-led online course, and they're also available private on-site. And we do have the ability to custom tailor off-the-shelf content for those private on-sites. If you're looking for something a little bit more specific, a little bit more technical, we do have an entire line of business analysis and data analysis training courses, including several business modeling courses and business architecture courses. A few more of the resources I wanted to pass over to you all is a brand new white paper called Rethinking BPMN, and it breaks down the good, the bad, and the ugly of business process modeling and takes a really ugly business process model and turns it into a really beautiful business process model. So that's definitely one to check out. That is available in the handout section on your control panel, as well as our 2017 Business Analyst Salary Survey Report. In 2017, we did partner with the International Institute of Business Analysts, the IIBA, and surveyed about 5,000 BAs around the world, and that report was just released. So feel free to check that out, as well as a new white paper on problem-solving techniques for BAs. If you're interested in any other resources, check out our website. We've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of white papers, ebooks, tools, and templates, you name it. So that's really it for me. Tracy, I guess I'll pass things over to you so you can start covering Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Ramsey, for a great webinar today. We do have some questions in the questions box. And just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please type your questions into the questions box, and I will ask Ramsey. Ramsey, our first question is actually is asking about, Deborah is asking about, can you share what that organization name was again that you told us to get involved with? Now, I believe you were talking about TOGAF, about slide 29.
Oh, I'm sorry for the confusion. I was talking mostly for business architects about the Business Architecture Guild. This I was on the right side of the slide. TOGAF was on the left side, and Business Architecture Guild is on the right side.
Excellent.
Sorry
Thanks
for the confusion. I can see how that would happen.
Thank you, Ramsey. Our next question comes from Richa, and he asks, the capabilities are a subset of business process or vice versa. Isn't it business process need to have defined set of capabilities to function?
Completely different concepts. A capability would be executed by a process. So if I have a capability of HR, thanks for your question. If I have an HR capability, hire staff, it may have one-to-many processes. So there's a relationship. There's not a predicate to either one. You could actually just be a process management shop and never do capability. But it's essentially, if you look at the semantic, it would be the higher management capability of HR would have staff and people and budgets. It would have the 6 dimensions: who, when, where, what, why. But it would also have process. I hope that's clear.
Thank you, Ramsey. Our next question comes from V. He's looking to try and find that business model concept booked on Amazon that you mentioned. Can you repeat the name on that?
Business model solutions, building business solutions. I don't recognize that book. It was called what? Business model concepts?
My apologies. He thought that you called it business model concept.
Oh, that book. Actually, was that the business rules? Let me go back.
Oh, we're showing my screen right now, so just let us know.
Oh, you are. Okay. I don't recall that name, business model concept book.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Unless it was business rules. If you send me an email to my email address on the help page, I would be happy to answer that directly.
Excellent. Thank you, Ramsey. Our next question comes from Kevin. Kevin asks, when and where does Agile work well? I know that's a long
Very well.
question.
Oh, well, I've used it for 21 years. I was Agile since 91. Agile didn't just start. It's been around forever. And it's working really, really well. But it comes in waves. And the real movement started in 2005. I've been a follower of Scott Ambler and all the others. You speak with those people, they're extremely worried about the modern trend of, and I'll tell you why. So let me tell you just quickly the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly is a company I got asked to go into years ago. We're going Agile. We're failing. We're having a big problem with our corporate. We're going to start all over and go Agile. The CTO on Friday told his staff to go and read a book. And Monday, we're going to go 300 people are going Agile. That's where it doesn't work. Agile without training is like taking a gun out and shooting yourself in the head. We're going to do Agile brain surgery tomorrow. The people are dying, but it's a lot of fun and we're getting a lot more brain surgery done. So that's the ugly. It does work really, really well. 60% of the systems in the world are simple and user stories are simple. When you scale up to anything like F-16 software or building software for the ICU or money, you cannot scale it. It doesn't scale. There's no proof that it does. So I would be careful if you're in a massively large scale project, but it works so well for many people because 60% of the systems we build are dead simple. So I hope that gives you some insight. It does work very, very well. I encourage it. I just don't want to see the modern Agile as it's beginning to fail and people are being fired left, right, and center. And that I just don't want to see that hurt the real Agile behind it. I hope that helps a little bit. And if you want to follow up on a conversation with an email, I'd be happy to do it. But if you're building commercial lightweight systems, you're fine. But it hasn't proven its way for high-risk systems at all, for military or, are we going to build an Agile brain surgery software today? Oh, I don't think so.
Hi, this is Chris Adams with Modern Analyst. If I may just interject briefly, and then we'll continue with the Q&A. For our audience, I know that what Ramsey covered today, as great as it was very, there was a lot involved and very broad strokes. So in addition to the Q&A that you're putting in here, if you guys can type perhaps some feedback on specific areas or topics that you'd like some drill down on, that could be helpful for future webinars. Back to you, Tracy.
Great, excellent, great idea, Chris. Thank you, Ramsey. Our next question is coming from Terrace, and they ask, what is the difference between enterprise architecture and business architecture in terms of deliverables and execution steps? And what would you recommend to conduct and in which cases?
Well, that's an excellent question. So I'm a TOGAF certified. I'm certified business architect, so I see both sides of it. Everything in the TOGAF talks about exactly what I spoke about today, and that's about business alignment. If we cannot align directly, enterprise architect seems to be more focused on the technology side of the world. It was my hope they would go larger into business architecture, but clearly the nice fit is BISBOC, the Business Architecture Guild Book of Knowledge, fits beautifully into the business architecture circle in TOGAF. So they fit, all these frameworks fit nicely together. So I don't see a problem between the two of them. And both organizations recognize how important it is to deliver from the boardroom. And if you don't have leadership, well, we have a problem. What was the follow-up question on that?
And what would you recommend to conduct and in which cases?
Okay. I would highly focus on, because I see both sides. I've been certified. I teach both courses. I've been doing those projects. I'd recommend for this audience, if you're interested in business architecture, that you really focus on the Business Architecture Guild.
Excellent.
If you have a highly IT shop where it's highly IT motivated, you still need the business driver. So, the first thing as a business architect is to seriously go into, we need way more. If I'm an enterprise architect, I need way more business architects. We don't have enough of them in the world. We're really hurting there.
Thanks, Ramsey. Our next question comes from Ikram. As a BA, I often get thrown on projects after the strategic direction has already been decided upon. Brackets often not as well defined as I like. Is it our role to challenge or seek clarification on the strategy at that point, or just accept it?
Depends on your temperament and your survival. I always did. So I just I want to protect my leadership, because it's a good thing to protect leadership if you believe in it, and you don't want people to fall on their swords and hurt themselves. So I would give it the 2 minutes, give it the, at least reach up and say. I remember one time walking into my boss's office, and see, here's a good trick you can play as a BA. I'm a BA. I can ask some questions. I have a few dumb questions. You have 5 minutes, and if you get access to those people, they have never had anybody ask them that in their life before, so they might be very, very, and showing that you have that interest and that you can deliver too. So I would say we should. I think a BA should challenge that and analyze it and think about it. In the political sense, if you get away with it, as far as, do you get access to that person? Because you have the right as a BA to go anywhere you want to ask questions on a project that you're involved in.
Thank you, Ramsey. All right, our next question.
I haven't been fired yet for doing that yet either.
Joshua is asking, what is the greatest obstacle confronting an organization to incorporate and subsequently execute knowledge management tools?
Excellent question. The biggest problem you're ever going to face in life is culture. And after I left corporate, I started my own company, and the most important thing is choosing your customers or choosing your boss. If you can't be successful with a certain culture, go somewhere else, because it's just not worth the effort. You can put up a battle for 10 years to fix it, and it'll never work if you're not in the right culture. Culture is number one.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just, we do have a lot of questions right now. And Anna Maria asks, as BAs, should we be influencing stakeholders? And if so, what recommendations do you have?
I believe you should. So a couple organizations create centers for business analyst excellence, centers for business architecture. If you do have the mandate and the funding, there is a way. I'll give you a little story that happened to me many years ago. The communications director of a very large organization said to me, I was the IT guy, Ramsey, I know you really believe in process re-engineering and transformation. You should buy everybody in the steering committee a book. I said, no, they're not going to read it. It'll be $15 out of my budget. And he said, you don't get it, do you? I said, no. So any way you can get to the communications people, if you have bright people, as regularly do something. They'll never read the book, but they'll ask someone who knows, and then it'll be, because today I think BAs and business architects, both of us, have to spend more time showing trends that are coming along in the industry to keep our business ahead of the curve. And that was kind of my intention today. It was kind of to try to say, hey, there are lots of things going on behind the scenes. And the good news is, the smart companies are not broadcasting what they're doing. We are under such sealed NDAs, you have no idea. We have no way of telling anyone. And so you need to kind of broadcast changes and success stories. And I love failures, because if you analyze a failure, you can always find a way to make things succeed. There's a lot of failures and there's reasons for failing. So I think we should, in some way or another. And as a BA, you'll have your own way of doing it. Everyone's going to find their own way to influence or educate as time goes on.
Thank you, Ramsey. And I'm just looking at the time right now, and we have run out of time for today's webinar. We'd like to say, Ramsey, thank you for such a great presentation. And thank you to ASPE Training for sponsoring today's event.
Thank you.
And also, thanks for attending today's Modern Analyst webinar. I'd like to remind everyone that today's webinar, along with the slides, will be archived at the ModernAnalyst.com website within a few business days. This concludes today's event. Thank you, and everyone have a great day.